And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of Tech and Future Talk here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, livinginblack.com. My name is Keedy Awadu, aka The Conscious Rasta. Weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time, that's 12 noon Eastern time, 5 p.m. GMT, 6 p.m. Johannesburg time, 7 p.m. East Africa time. We get together with you and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives, entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Thursday, the 12th of September, the year 2024 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6264 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. All right, a few last minute buttons to push, and I think we've got it all up and running the way it's supposed to be. I do hear the audio track coming through. I welcome you to today's conversation. Let me introduce the conversation, and then let me introduce you to the panel, or as much of the panel as possible that we have for today's conversation. Today, we are on Tech and Future Talk, our regular Thursday broadcast. Today, September 12th, we are engaging the fundamental question: is Pan-Africanism merely a historical relic from which we derive much pride and in identification, or is it a dynamic pathway and a bridge to sovereign and sustainable development for the 1.754 billion people of African heritage in the world? Today, we commence a series of conversations featuring Pan-African voices from around the world to share their insights, their perspectives, and their research on the topic of Pan-Africanism versus the global reset. So that is the subject matter for today. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Bear with me as the logistics of putting together today's broadcast have been really quite intensive. Let me connect my first panel member to the stage. Joining us from South Africa, Brother Shaba is in the house. Brother Shaba, can you hear me? Okay, I saw he was in there. Let me just double check, make sure my headset is working well. Shaba, I believe you can hear me at this point. Okay, and then let me, Shaba, while you reconnect yourself, you were on very briefly and then the screen froze, so hopefully he'll be back on with us here very, very shortly. And hopefully he'll be back in just a minute. Let me give a brief introduction on Shaba. Shaba Kwapa, PhD, is an academic and researcher based in Johannesburg, South Africa, with a very strong background in interdisciplinary studies. He holds a Doctor of Philosophy degree in Public Policy and Development from Howard University. His expertise spans humanities, sociology, political science, multimedia design, mass media and communications, instructional design and technology, data and policy analysis, and research and program development. As a professional, Shashaba Kawaba has held various positions, including CEO and Director of International Research Affairs at the Institute for Advanced Research, IRA, South Africa, and visiting assistant professor at Florida A&M University. His research focuses on public policy and development, international relations, and mass media and communications. With a passion for innovative teaching and learning, Kawaba promotes the effective use of technology in academic and corporate environments. His extensive expertise and experience have earned him recognition as a leading scholar in this field. So that is the introduction. I'm waiting for my brother Shaba to reconnect his signal. Again, joining us from South Africa. I had planned on, scheduled to have a number of different scholars from across the African continent. And I just got a note from him having a network or bandwidth issue. Again, he's in Johannesburg, so we can anticipate these issues from time to time. I had expected to be hearing from a number of our different scholars from Rwanda, Uganda, Senegal, and Rwanda, Uganda, Senegal, and there was one other country had logged in today, and South Africa. So hopefully our panel will fill up. We're going to have a second discussion on this topic for next week. And unfortunately, everybody, this reality is, and as you know, you can get on your computer and you can connect. You can do it from your phone. And you can connect via Zoom, via StreamYard, or via some other link. Google Meetings, Apple has various ones. And you can connect with pretty much most of the planet within less than 1 minute and have a very reliable communication. Yet, when it comes to our African motherland, we have been left behind. It's not others' sole responsibility to keep us up to par with standards that occur in the world. It's our primary responsibility. I read the bio on my brother Shaba with extensive expertise. He's a doctorate from Howard University, expertise in multimedia design, mass media and communications, data, policy analysis, technology, design, and implementation. He's in South Africa, which is, of all African countries, said to have the most advanced technological infrastructure. South Africa manufactures airplanes, military armaments. South Africa assembles automobiles. South Africa is not a lightweight country. So the challenge to us as African people on this planet is, can we collectively take responsibility for upgrading, uplifting our people, our destiny, wherever we find ourselves in the world? That is a major challenge. That's a key challenge. Where are our wise women and men of technology? They do exist. We know because many of them are employed by the major corporations and hold either full or partial patents on major technology for communications. So I'm over here kind of struggling as I've been working all week long to put together today's conversation. I've been working Since early this morning, I actually woke up early this morning, and this was the sole engagement within my mind and wouldn't allow me to go back to sleep. So I got a good early start, putting it all together, been sending out messages and messages and messages, and only to have this frustration. We're going to do the best we can with what the Creator has put on our table. And I know, Shaba, I know you're trying to get in. One other brother sent me a note that said he was on his way to Niger. He works as a translator. He speaks multiple languages. He's based in Kampala, Brother Brian. He was on his way to Niger as of last night, which should have had him checked into a hotel in Niger and hopefully had access to the internet. Another brother told me he would not be able to be on this week, but would make it definitely next week. And still looking to see where some of our others are. So we're going to do the best we can with what we got, always striving to get more so that we can do even better with what the Creator puts in our hands. I do have a second link, and I think this is Shaba connecting on two different platforms. El Makola in the house is muted. If you are in the house, unmute yourself and tell us about how you're connecting here with us today. I don't recognize a name, so sometimes people will have a secondary name or a connection, internet connection, and that quite often happens. We're going to put a number of different talking points on the table. Let me just see if I can chop up these talking points while I do have an audience. A very distinguished audience, too, a very distinguished group of panel. Many of us, myself included, have become absolutely convinced of the idea of Pan-Africanism or perish. Scanning today's news, I came across a story that's kind of typical of what African people, black people in the U.S. are going through. This story appeared first from the New York Times and was replicated across a broad spectrum of media. I got this one from Yahoo News. It said, doctors give black women unneeded C-sections to fill operating rooms, study suggests. That sounds pretty shocking, doesn't it? And here's what the study said in part. And this is why we say Pan-Africanism or perish. Obstetricians are more likely to give black women unnecessary cesarean sections, putting these women at higher risk for serious complications like ruptured surgical wounds. That's the conclusion of a new report of nearly 1 million births in 68 hospitals in New Jersey. It's a report conducted by Princeton University, one of the largest studies to tackle the subject. Even if a black mother and a white mother with similar medical histories saw the same doctor at the same hospital, the black mother was about 20% more likely to have her baby via C-section, the study found. That corresponds to the other lingering, persistent statistic that in the United States, when it comes to infant and maternal mortality, black women still generally retain about double the rate of infant and maternal mortality than do their white counterparts at the same, well, within the same nation. Because obviously the socioeconomic status does weigh in on this and is biased against black mothers and black babies. Ultimately, it comes down to leadership. The data is here. The research, the reports have been done. These are not new stories. We have a whole spectrum of similar disparities in healthcare and healthcare outcomes. The disparities when it came to COVID morbidity and mortality were even more gross. The black COVID diagnosed person in the United States was anywhere between 218 and 260% higher mortality rate than their white counterpart, which was already disproportionately high compared to all other countries across the developed world. It comes down to leadership. We saw a number of people of African heritage in the United States become really excited this Tuesday when two political candidates faced off in what appears to be maybe their only debate of the year. And despite what the media told you, you heard, I listened to it. And I was very underwhelmed by both candidates. With Trump, as usual, you can expect he lies every 5 sentences. He's got to get at least one lie, hyperbole or exaggeration in, unconnected, disconnected from reality. That's expected from Donald Trump. His hair looked particularly good that day. They did a little bit of extra work on him. But his opposition candidate, Kamala Harris, my two main complaints was no substance to what she says, vague ideologies, but no substance, no here is step by step how we are going to accomplish this. She's not saying that. She makes all of these promises of wealth dispersal, which goes against the grain, against the trend of 13 U.S. presidencies in a row, furthering wealth and income concentration in the hands of the wealthy. 13 administrations in the row, including Barack Obama, all of them. So she's going to turn it around. Well, she better have a pretty spectacular plan for doing so. And you and I, we didn't hear nothing about that spectacular plan. And she has said very overtly that when it comes to the question of what are you going to do for black people, she says, come on. You know I'm not going to do anything for black people. In fact, she probably won't even finish that sentence. She immediately diverts the question into what am I going to do for everybody? What am I going to do for people of color? What am I going to do for women and transgender and all of these other groups that Barack Obama said, I'm not going to do nothing for black people. But did he do something for women? Yes. Did he do something for gender ambiguous community? Yes. Did he do something for the bankers? Hello. What's in it for me? What's in it for us? What have you done for me lately? So I listened to that debate and I was overwhelmingly unimpressed with what came out of that presidential debate. On that note, I do see we've got a video connection. I'm going to add to the stage, joining us from Johannesburg, South Africa, my beloved brother from another mother, Brother Shaba Akwaba. Welcome. How you doing today, my brother? I hope
How
that
are you?
you
Is my
can hear
audio
me.
okay?
Your audio is good. There may be a little bit of a
No, I
delay, a
can hear
gap.
you.
Yeah, there may be about a 5 or 10-second
Okay,
gap.
no.
I did introduce you to the group.
Okay.
We're having a conversation about excuse me, about Pan-Africanism in the future trajectory of our people. But just take about 3-minute introduction of yourself to this topic of what does Pan-Africanism mean as a contributor to the global development of our people.
Okay, I would like to thank you, my dear brother Kitty, for allowing me to participate in this discussion and understanding what the implications and what's happening currently. What I can say is that the idea of Pan Africanism is very important. As
All right, bear with us now. We are connecting live with Johannesburg, South Africa. Brother Shaba, if you can hear me right now, if you are in a position to turn your camera off and use just the audio feed on your StreamYard connection, that will free up bandwidth. Otherwise, the line was breaking up momentarily while you were speaking, which means it was delivering packets, and the packets were not contiguous. So turning off the video camera will allow a better audio signal, which uses a lot less bandwidth, to come through. And I'll send him a note on that. I see he just did drop. It froze up. If you can, turn off the video camera and only use the audio to conserve bandwidth. Okay, hopefully he'll get that message. And, oh, that was not to him, that was somebody else. Sorry about that. Let me copy that message. Sorry about that. I sent that to Daniel when I meant to send it to Shaba. And going forward to Brother Shaba here. Hopefully, what just happened? No, I didn't want that to happen. Actually, I copied a piece of mail. I don't know what that was. Delete that. And use the audio only for the connection to save bandwidth. And hopefully he'll get that message. Bear with us, everybody. This reminds me of the old days when we used to connect with Africa. We used to have to use calling cards. $5 calling card would get us to about 1 hour of conversation. We've come a long way on LAB Radio. Yet at the same time, we as African people have still got quite a ways to go to catch up with the world. There's no reason in the world. Johannesburg, South Africa, major city in a major developed country with a high level of technology accomplishment. There's no way in the world we should not be able to make these connections much easier. You heard me read the brother's bio. This brother is a world-class scholar. So we're going to do the best we can with what we've got. And let me just double check, make sure I got an audience today. I do have an audience. I see Shaba is connecting in again. I do have an audience, but unfortunately it's a small audience. And I think much of that might have had to do with the confusion that we've had so far today. So Shaba, I've got you back on. I believe you have your camera turned off at this point, which should make for a better audio connection. When we took a break, you were giving
with a cap.
Yeah, when we took a break, you were giving about a 3-minute
the time when I got cut off
to the concept. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's where I was. Do you want me to start over, or did you get some of it? But I can do it again.
Please.
I can do it in 3 minutes.
Please start over.
Okay. Okay. All right. My name is Dr. Sachaba Kwapa. I finished my studies in the United States and my PhD at Howard University, which was sort of
Yeah, he was able to get about 10 seconds, 12 seconds of the conversation in before the line dropped again. The state of the Pan African world today on Tech and Future Talks. I put together a lot of different notes for today's conversation. Why I am myself moving very, very firmly toward this polarity, towards this foundation of the theme of Pan Africanism or perish. As I said, many of us have become absolutely convinced of the idea of, quote, Pan Africanism or perish. I do continue to expand my global network of engaging comrades, and I wish everybody who was invited and agreed to come onto the broadcast, I wish they were all here right now because I would love to share these biographies of these individuals. Spectacular biographies. You heard Sashaba's biography, pretty spectacular. And I had several others I wanted to share. Splendid biographies, active, engaging business leaders, entrepreneurs, visionaries, artists. So I will continue to expand my network of engaging comrades around the world. We have a second meeting scheduled for next week. We're going to try and see if we can get everybody to show up for that one. Through all of these efforts, I am identifying Pan-African networks, institutions, conventions, and cooperative groups for collaboration. I got an invitation to join a group traveling to Nigeria and other countries, or traveling to, not to Nigeria, the conference was just held in Nigeria. I was on that conference, but traveling to Southern Africa, visiting, I think, 4 different countries on that trip. I would love to be right there on the front line with that group. It's a highly accomplishing group on a wonderful critical mission. This group is called the African Diaspora Trade Investment Group. My brother, I heard from my brother, our brother, Brother Meredith Beale, who has been appointed. Well, I'll be introducing him next week, but this appointment that he's just received, this is spectacular, people. This appointment is His Royal Highness Chief Meredith Clayton Beale, Senior Paramount Chief and Global Envoy of the Bokolokoid Kingdom in Southern Africa. Nomination for Champion of Tradition and Modern Progress Honorary Award. On behalf of the leading women of Africa, it is our great honor to nominate you for the Champion of Tradition and Modern Progress Honorary Award. Nomination is a reflection of your extraordinary efforts in preserving and promoting African cultural heritage, while simultaneously embracing modern innovation and progress. And it goes on. That's his invitation from Ms. Madeleine Mukunu, the CEO and president of Leading Women of Africa Group. These are spectacular people of high accomplishment, desire, and willpower. So for me, this idea of Pan-Africanism or perish means that I absolutely must synchronize my efforts with people of such great accomplishment. We're also recommitting ourselves to engage in media communications that embraces Pan-Africanism and excludes nationalist voices that elevate Urugu, the incomplete being, using the terminology put forward in the book of the same title by Dr. Marimba Ani, Urugu, the incomplete being. We're going to embrace Pan-African voices and exclude Urugu nationalism. That means the donkey party. We have committed in this series of conversations is to demonstrate to be on the leading edge of Pan-African journalism. That's why you would tune in to LIB Radio. You want to hear what's happening. You want to hear the leading edge. You want to hear the story behind the story behind the story. You want to go layers in from a distinctly Pan-African position. None but ourselves can free ourselves, sang Bob Marley in the song, Redemption Song. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free ourselves. That's a very important instruction from the prophet, the scholar, Bob Marley. So we also are investing, and we're encouraging people to invest in the motherland through remittances. I have an extended family in Nairobi, Kampala, Ghana, and other places, to which I have shared remittances over the years. And I want to upgrade this process. Some of you in our listening audience just today, Sister Christine in Columbus, share your bounteous Harvey. You share your surplus with your brother here so that I can continue to do this. Brother, work it out. So wonderfully generous, incredibly, beautifully generous in supporting what we do, consistently so. And I just got a message from my brother Shaba, and it sounds like, oh, I got a message from somebody else. I can't read this message during the show because I don't know who this is. Who is this message from? And hopefully we'll be able to get it, but I won't be able to read that on the air. In fact, I think it's still downloading. It could very well likely be my brother Shaba. I do see the suffix is South Africa. The country code 27 is South Africa. So we're going to do the best we can with what we got. We're not going to give up either. We do not give up so easy. We are here to elevate voices from among the Pan-African community that contribute to the idea of Africa rising. Africa rising. And of course, this new initiative identifies the resources, assets, capacities, and visionary pathways through which all individuals can contribute to the group's successes. And that is what we are about. It is a sacred mission. I had a number of talking points, questions on the table for today's conversation. And I just said that is Shaba. And
Hello, Brother Kitty. I don't know if this one might be a better option to do because for whatever reason, it keeps kicking me out, especially when we get to the good parts. So maybe you can use this audio and then you can actually play it reflectively within the group and then let me know what the responses were. But what I was trying to say is that my name is Dr. Sachava Koapa,
And, I was born in South Africa, but I was raised in the United States. I recently, well, not recently, but I had completed my studies in Washington, D.C., at Howard University, what would be considered the Mecca in relation to what Pan Africanism is. Pan Africanism is a very important component that I think that we as African people we really need to fortify that only because of the disjunction and the disunity that we face as a people that sometimes we do not understand that regardless of the external world we are all African. In the words of Peter Tosh, if you're a black man you're an African. um, and even the things that I've learned from you, especially in the teachings and the guidances of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, what that entails. I myself personally have experienced xenophobia from my fellow African people, not because I wasn't African, but for the simple fact that I did not have a shared lived experience in Africa with them. And so there are repercussions about that because some of the most prominent people who expressed Pan Africanism. From, if we want to talk about, from Julius Nyerere, if we want to talk about Kwame Nkrumah, the first black president in Africa, and all of those things, they were also, indoctrinated and trained by fellow Africans in the diaspora. We can talk about the likes of Walter Rodney, and then we can talk about the other impacts that were done, even from Malcolm X and how he influenced Patrice Lumumba, and how those actions and those interests actually helped Africans establish an identity, not just as, oh, I'm Nigerian or I'm Ethiopian or whatnot, but the whole idea of that we are one, and that is the only way that we are going to have future implications regarding what African is and how we can actually establish those processes that we want to establish. It's just unfortunate sometimes we kind of we minimize or we limitize even when people are talking about decolonization because that's the new buzz now. Practically, I don't think it's very feasible because it's not feasible until we actually redefine what institutions and what education and all of those things are. Just changing the name does not change the actual infrastructure of what that supposedly colonized, oppressed institution was. The structures are still there, which means the actual mentality is still there. And the whole thing of trying to deprogram us, we can only do it within ourselves. And Brother Keita, there's one thing you've always mentioned a long time ago, and I take this page out of your book that, if Africa closed all its borders and closed all its borders, the continent of Africa could be free. Because if Hitler can do it in 8 years, why are we lacking to have that kind of assembly?
All right. That was audio clip that was forwarded to my WhatsApp page from our brother. And I do appreciate love that. And he has a second audio clip that he put together. I'm going to share that one here in just a second. Some of the other ideas and themes for this assessment of the state of the Pan African world, we ask the question, what is functional Pan Africanism? And why is functional Pan Africanism the best pathway forward at this time? We do mention and we acknowledge that we stand on the shoulders of the greats, like Kwame Nkrumah, like Sekou Toure, like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X. We stand on the shoulders of the greats, like Julius Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, Jomo Kenyatta, Sekou Toure, Thomas Sankara. We stand on the greats, on the shoulders of these great ones like Chris Honey, like Shashaba Koapa's father, who had been one of the founders of Pan-African movement in Southern Africa. He has since moved on to the realm of the ancestors. I was hoping that he would give us a profile and honor his father, who's been interviewed here on the LIB radio. But moving forward, now we move forward. I'd mentioned these great ancestors, and I didn't mention Stephen Biko, another great ancestor. There were so many of whom were martyred. Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, and others who were martyred. But now we move forward, and now we have to find the Pan-African voices of today. Be they Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia, be they Paul Kagame of Rwanda, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, Pan-African voices like John Magufuli, who is now an ancestor, powerful voice from Tanzania, powerful voices like Julius Malema from South Africa, powerful voices like Ibrahim Traore of the Confederation of Sahel States. These voices do exist. These voices must be heard. Here on LIB Radio, we have had the opportunity to focus on the next generation of voices. And I was hoping to have 5 of this next generation of Pan-African leadership join us today. Shashaba Koapa, Daniel Rugarama from Uganda, Heru Oforiata, originally from Ghana, now living in Rwanda and the United States. Lekwe Lanjuel from Senegal. Brian Magero of Uganda. Meredith Beale from Kenya, as well as I mentioned his brief biography, from the paramount chief to the royal throne of the kingdom of Bakolokoi in Southern Africa. We have these next generation of voices, leadership voices, that we can elevate. You and I have a say in the next generation of these great, grand, historical heroes. You and I have an input. Think about that. What would you do if you could have an input to the elevation of a Kwame Nkrumah, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Thomas Sankara, an input into the elevation of Robert Mugabe, and so many others, Winnie Mandela? Would you go out of your way to help to write the pages of history, even if that didn't necessarily include your name in the front line, but you were in the footnotes? So we have a chance now to be the determinants of history. We're talking about game theory, ultimately, and I really wanted to talk to my panel today about this idea of game theory. We asked the question, what are the powerful forces aligning across the world against which Africans must better compete? In game theory, this would comprise the complete competing players in the game. Most of us are totally unaware of game theory. The game exists, the competition exists, and the competition is determinate, ultimately determinate, not just of centuries, but not just of years, but determinate of centuries, millennia. Game theory, that the game consists of 2 or more players vying to win the game. These players are in here. Number 3, these players are in here deliberately, and these players have very well articulated, defined strategies to compete against other players to win the game. Very clear, very defined strategies, and the players in the game are always doing their best to be alert and aware to the best strategies that their competing players have either deployed or planned to or might have the potential of deploying. That's the nature of game theory, people. And the fourth stage of game theory is that ultimately, when all is said and done, there is an output, an outcome, if not a conclusion, there is a payoff from the competition, from the game. And we got to understand that. So then we ask, what powerful forces happening in the world are aligning against Africans, against which we must better compete. They're lining up. It's the new scramble for Africa. They want African farmland, 2.160 billion acres of arable land on the African continent. The competition from around the world wants primary access to that farmland. They want African strategic mineral resources and rare earth minerals. They want gold. They want diamonds. They want platinum. They want copper. They want cobalt. They want tin. They want aluminium, bauxite. They want coltan, columbite, tantalite. They want these rare earth minerals, lithium. They want African lithium. Zimbabwe has a capacity of producing about the fourth largest stock of lithium in the world. As the world is moving towards electric vehicles, they need to get access to Zimbabwe's lithium. The United States and Britain have had a blistering, horrible sanctions against Zimbabwe now for 2 decades. So therefore, they're cut off from the lithium. So therefore, the Chinese and the Russians and the Japanese and the South Koreans and the Singaporeans and the Malaysians and the Indians, they all want access to the lithium from Zimbabwe. Why not you and I? Dr. Chimbori Kwao, Dr. Ericana, as we know her, she has come to us across the diaspora. She's born in Zimbabwe. She's come to us and talks about the outreach that Zimbabwe and Zambia and Ghana and other African countries have made to us, the diaspora. Come home, participate. Let's build a future together. That is the state of Pan-Africanism moving forward. When some 5,000 acres of land on the Zambia-Zimbabwe border is donated, allocated for use by the African diaspora to come home and build our Wakanda city of the future, why do we have zero response from African American political elected leaders in the Congressional Black Caucus, across black media? Zero response from any black journalist working for ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, all of the above. They don't know about it. They may have heard about it, but they don't know. Because if you knew, you'd get excited about the potential. We saw the year of return in Ghana. That was pretty doggone exciting. A lot of people heard about that. A number of celebrities who had surplus money decided to go ahead and go to Ghana. Look at Stevie Wonder and a number of others. To go to Ghana, get your passport, get your citizenship, invest in the country, build up institutions. You have professional athletes building hospitals in Ghana and Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire, football players and basketball players. I'm talking about football, the real football, soccer. Going home to the motherland and building hospitals, educational institutions. And I'm not talking about a vanity project like Oprah tried to pull off in South Africa. I think they were able to correct a horrible mistake that was made there, putting $42 million into a school for girls where the girls were going only to find themselves being molested by lesbians from across Africa and from outside of Africa. Lesbians. How in the world could you have done that, Oprah? You did not listen to the council of the elders. They would have told you, we do not need one $42 million school. We need 21 $2 million schools. Pan-Africanism. So we are to elevate these voices. We are to identify the resources the assets, the capacities. Africa has, and I think it's around 600 plus centers for technology innovation. Yeah, whole bunch of them all over the continent. Which ones are African Americans investing in to the highest degree? I know they are investing. Some of the people I would schedule to have today are the ones doing the investing, doing the building, doing the innovation. And hopefully we're going to get them on. I'm going to keep persisting on this until we get this done because this is too important a conversation. Let me see. Is there anyone who's talking to me today? I have a good size audience. And I had the conversation with my brother Work It Out yesterday. He says, man, I hear you talking to us. We out there listening, but not responding. And brother Work It Out, the way you respond is about the best way anyone could respond. And that's maybe not type while I'm on the air, but to call me within days of a show and say, man, I was listening and I heard what you had to say. And here's what you and I can do to go forward. Brother Work It Out, you have earned my trust. And I know that I have earned your trust, which is why we collaborate and cooperate and work together to the very best of our ability. We are a great and noble people with a long historical record of high accomplishment. Now is the time for us to take everything we do, everything we know, and elevate it to the next level. Oh yeah, it's that time. It's going to be a great journey. I look forward to the trip. I hope you look forward to the trip. There were a number of talking points. I'm going to kind of save these talking points for the conversation. Questions like, what are basic strategies that our team, Game Theory, could apply that would increase the rate of success in this global competition? Name 3 basic strategies and be prepared to articulate details on one or more. I'll answer that question myself and then put that to the panel next week. We're talking about 3 basic strategies. Number 1 basic strategy is human resources development. Now that's basic, that's broad, that's a wide foundation. Human resources development means let's handle the birthing process better. Infant and maternal mortality on the African continent are the worst in the world. Horrible, horrible numbers. Shameful, disgraceful numbers. When one baby, 1.1 mothers die during childbirthing process, including pregnancy, in Belarus, the best in the world. Compare that, 1.1 per 100,000 live births in Belarus. Compare that to the worst in the world, which is 1,223 deaths of women during childbirth per 100,000 childbirths in South Sudan. That's worse than horrible. That's scandalously, shockingly horrible. And African Americans who could do a lot just by small investments in portable ultrasound machines for use in high-risk pregnancies, investments in prenatal nutrition, and investments in peace, because it's hard to give birth to children when you're a refugee fleeing the Sudanese civil wars, South Sudan's numerous civil wars, fleeing jihadist terrorism across the Sahel, across the Sahara, jihadist terrorism in places like Kenya, Somalia, Uganda, Mozambique. These problems can be easily corrected. So human resources management is also provide jobs for your young teenage males so that they are not tempted to grab a Kalashnikov The first time someone finds one, loads it up, hands it to them, and gives them $100 and say, "You are now a soldier in my militia." Let's send those men to get a good education, a quality education. Let's put some tools like laptops and technology in their hands, and let's turn them out. Turn them out. Turn them out. I did get a note from Dr. Gale. Thank you, Brother Keedy. Thank you for your presentation. Very informative, much appreciated. Keep up the good work. Be blessed. Yes, we are doing the best we can to do the best we can and do even better. Thank you, Dr. Gale, for being a finger on this beautiful hand called Pan Africanism. And maybe she'll join us next week. Maybe. You can join our part 2 discussion on these themes on Thursday, September 19th. Hopefully she will. I had a second message that I gotten from Brother Shaba Kawapa, and let me play this before we begin to wrap things up for today.
Hello, Brother Kitty. I don't know if this one might be a better option to do because for whatever reason, it keeps kicking me out.
This might be the same message.
Especially when we get to the good parts. So maybe you can use this audio and then you can actually play it reflectively within the group and then let me know what the responses were.
Yeah,
That is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's the same. That's the same message he had forwarded on the other message line. So we got that one, and critical questions. Who out there listening right now? Who out there will type in the words? Put your caps key on, making you shout it. I am Pan-African, unapologetically. And I put the exclamation part after that. I am Pan-African unapologetically. No apology. No hiding from the fact that I am Pan-African. If another person says I'm pro-Zionist, yeah, now that's a bad comparison because Pan-Africans do not invade, assault, and commit genocide against other people. There's no evidence of it. Zero evidence. Whereas Zionism is engaging currently in assaulting, attacking, and committing genocide against Palestine, as they are also assaulting, attacking Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Iran, Iraq, and there's probably one more in there, and Palestine, and Jordan. So, but if we look at other Pan-Chinese, they're not engaging in aggressive warfare. Pan-Indians, no, they're not. So, but I'm talking about Pan-Africans. We do not assault and attack people, period. We do believe in our own nationalism. I have no problem at all with the person standing up saying, I'm from India and I am an Indian nationalist. If they say I'm from Vietnam, I'm a Vietnamese nationalist. If they say I'm from Colombia and I am a Colombian nationalist, a Venezuelan nationalist, a Brazilian nationalist, I have no problem at all with saying. If a person is from Europe and says I am a white nationalist, makes perfect sense to me. It's natural. As long as you as a white nationalist do not invest your time in militarizing and assaulting and attacking other people because they are not white nationalists. That's where you have a terrible record, an indefensible record, and preparing to do it all over again. The great sage, now ancestor Rodney King said, "Why can't we all just get along?" And there was a strong core of truth to that statement. As awkward as it may have sounded, he asked the question, why can't we all just get along? Why was it necessary for police to pull over his Hyundai and put him on the pavement, surround him, and beat the living daylights out of the man for what, 2 minutes plus? This is a time of great challenge in the world. I'm still waiting to see if anybody would just type that phrase in. I am unapologetically Pan-African. I see Ricky Donahue in the house, and not much response from the You Now family about that request. I am unapologetically Pan-African. I say, and I make no bones about that. No apology. No need to apologize for being. For just being. For just being. So on that note, I'm going to save some of this conversation for next weekend, the follow-up conversations. And last point was a closing point, talking point. The diaspora should be functioning as a frontline, vanguard leadership for a sovereign and sustainable development. The diaspora should be in collaboration, in cooperation, not exclusive of Pan-African leaders from across the continent. But the diaspora is in a special position. Wealthier per capita, educated at some of the strongest institutions of education, of higher education in the world, access to an immense collective consumer base, and we've been expected. Every time I go to Africa, Africans from across the continent have been consistent at saying, we are so glad that you come from the U.S. to our country, and we are so happy, wonderfully surprised that you care so much about Africa, so much about Ghana, care so much about Ethiopia, care so much about Kenya, Uganda. And I do care. I care so much that I will not come empty-handed. I will come with investments, technology transfer. We transfer 1 year. Remember, LAB family, if you've been with us that long, remember the year we took an entire radio station to University of Kumasi in Ghana? Whole radio station, FM radio station, broadcaster, and antenna, the studio equipment, mixers and mics and headphones. We did that, people. We did that together. I saw the vision. I organized it. I talked to you, and many of you said, Katie, we are in this together. I'm so very grateful that we rose to that occasion. On that note, I'm going to wrap it up for today. I was so excited to bring this conversation only to find that nobody showed up. The one who tried to show up had technical problems. And another brother sent me a note that LaQuay sent me a note that said that the electricity grid in Dakar had gone down. I think he's in Dakar. Had gone down, and that his batteries were losing power and probably would not be able to sustain the broadcast today. So we didn't hear from him at all. We're going to do the best we can with what we got, always striving to get more so that we can do even better by strategic plan for the future. And that's our plans, that's our commitment. We pledge to bring you the best voices we can possibly find to contribute to these conversations. And we're going to do the best we can to just keep learning, growing, studying, researching, writing, and helping us all to find that glorious pathway, that pathway forward that you and I know as Pan-Africanism or perish. That is our future. That is our destiny. On your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio. We are LIB TV. We are livinginblack.com. Peace, y'all.